out on a GSM or other kind of commercial networks which were absolutely clogged and congested. There was a lack of police's own radio network for it to effectively and efficiently take care of the situation. Let's look at the Indian context for police communication. I fully agree about the role of social media and how it has been envisaging the whole aspect and changing the paradigm shift for communication requirement. But I think let's take a step back and look at how the Indian context it fits in over there. For police communication, I think still the very basic bottom line lies in voice communication. These things can all be taken care of as a supplementary aspect in terms of a Facebook tweet going into the control room, in terms of a short message coming across to the control room, in terms of a dial 100 call coming to the control room. But what actually and eventually matters is that police control room reaching out to the first responder on the ground to help the victim, to serve the victim. So that is where I think, again, the basic voice communication is of paramount importance. I was in recently a conference, and I heard about the fact that what is the first and best mode of communication in a disaster? And it won't be a wild guess. The answer was that shout, help. That is the first and best mode of communication in a disaster. Nothing more than that. In recently hurricanes, as you might have seen, all set sites were destroyed. The only mode of communication was those typical two-way walkie-talkie handsets on which the public safety agencies were interacting with each other and responding to the disaster. Just a sample illustration of a typical state police organization in India. You have the PHQ, you have the district headquarters, followed by the police stations and the outposts, followed by the beat constables on the ground. From our experience, what we have seen as the key expectations in terms of a police wireless communication network: secured voice communication, cost efficient, of course, which again links across to spectral efficiency, because spectrum, I'm sure you might all have read across about the 2G issues going across in the country. Spectrum is really, really, really scarce in this country. So a technology that can give a cost-effective, spectrally efficient solution is of paramount importance. Interfacing to the existing legacy systems, we have the HF, VHF, old legacy systems of the police running across. We can't dispose them off. So there has to be a technology platform which can give a solution to link across and carry forward those legacy systems while moving across to a digital system as well. Device options, multiple devices as per the user needs. It could be a person on the ground having a small portable device like this in his hand. It could be a vehicle of a police person, a PCR van, which requires a radio into the dashboard. Different requirements for different people. Interfacing to the external systems. Dial 100 is a typical example. AVLS, as we call it, which is basically a location tracking system, locating the PCR van or the beat constable on the road so that you can actually hit across on that person to give him the information in the first hand. And finally, integration to PABX, PSTN. Add-on requirements for data are also slowly coming in. But from the understanding that we have had with police officials, the basic necessity for requirements still lies on these basic facets. This is a typical police radio network. You have the police headquarters, which will have a vehicle location system, a dial 100 system, a network management system. It will have a dispatch control room setup. On the left side, you have the external subsystems on which you have to integrate and interface, PSTN, PABX, existing HF, VHF legacy systems. And you'll have a repeater sites across the city, state, district to give across the coverage. So what essentially comes into the picture then is basically the integrated command and control. I think that is the heart for the police communication network. When you dial across a dial 100, you send across to a control room, all the information is coming to the control room, and the control room acting as a monitor to manage the information flow from the civil society to the first responder. I spoke about spectrum being a scarce resource in the country, and I'll just put across a new thought process on the similar lines. And sharing spectrum can actually save lives. And from where I'm coming is talking about a shared network for different agencies. Sir mentioned about different stakeholders involved in a disaster, in a public safety kind of a mission. And I fully agree with that. You have medicos, you have fire, you have paramedics, you have disaster teams, and so forth, besides the typical on-ground police team, who have to take care of that epidemic, that disaster that has happened on the ground. If they all are on different systems, how do they communicate to each other? That's a very basic problem of integration, of interoperability. And the mission for this kind of agencies is basically to collaborate and respond in the quickest possible time to save property, to save human life. You know, the calls on such networks can actually save lives. That's the difference in this kind of a network and any other kind of a network.
Mr. Raghav, we'll have to wind up at 5:30.
I'm just 3 slides more now. Talking about an example of GRN, there's a government radio network. It was done across in Delhi, in a collaboration with HCL. Motorola did this implementation of a GRN in Delhi. It's used by multiple agencies. As many as 17 agencies are using a common network, which is giving coverage to the whole of Delhi, so that they can collaborate effectively and efficiently in a timely manner. Just a small look at the technologies that are available today. APCO P25, which comes from US, and Tetra, which comes from US, HC. These are the two technologies recommended by ITU for use for public safety and disaster relief. Both are truly open standards, both are highly resilient, and both give you the functionalities of voice and supplementary data on the same single device in the hands of a police user. Deployments of APCO P25 across 80 countries, and similarly for Tetra, more than 100 countries. Motorola looks upon that as a technology solution that can act across barriers. You know, we need the police to concentrate on the mission, not on the technology on which they're using to serve the mission. And that's where we see going forward the future for public safety. To conclude, I think the need of the hour is to have a framework for police communication modernization, a framework which defines technologies, key functional requirements, harmonization of technologies, and finally, to promote a shared network kind of a thing so that different agencies can collaborate and respond more effectively. Thank you.
We'll move over to Mr. Sanjay Sahai.